This is where it happened. Eastern France from the Mediterranean to the Rhine. Rugged country where the people of the Maquis had long fought the Nazis. This is where we operated. We, being the OSS Secret Intelligence teams attached to the 7th Army in the drive up the Rhone Valley. But our film story starts here, in the town of Bourgoin, in August 1944, D+15. Henry Hyde, 7th Army SI chief, called his divisional teams in for special instructions. At a camp that had been a German CP 2 days before, we set up our radio jeeps to keep contact with OSS headquarters. We were organized into Strategic Services Section teams, SSS for short. It was our job to furnish each division with short-range intelligence, recruit agents in the field, shoot them through the lines, get their information to Division G2. Hyde's instructions were to penetrate to Lens-le-Saunier, an FFI stronghold deep behind enemy lines. Lens commanded a strategic position on a road fork leading back to the Belfort Gap. Our friends there were sure to have dope on enemy troop movements. We had to get that dope. Our combined 45th and 3rd Division SSS team started early next day. An hour later, we were far ahead of the infantry, far into Jerry country. First stop was a town 50 miles up. This place had been liberated by the FFI, and we were the first Americans they'd seen. We had to have a drink on that. Then the local FFI chief gave us a guide and telephoned ahead to Lens-le-Saunier to be expecting us. Up the road, an FFI unit questioned us. These men were firing first and apologizing later. The FFI had gotten our message and were waiting for us when we pulled into Lens late that night. The local FFI chief, Commandant Louis, was a former symphony conductor. He told us the Germans were only a few kilometers outside town and that we might have to leave Lens any minute. But we'd driven 125 miles through enemy territory. We were tired. After a short talk with the commandant, we went to sleep in the local hotel. Those people down there had waited all night to see their first Americans. Made you feel funny. This is what happened when we tried to leave the hotel. Charles Boyer had nothing on us. Most of them wanted our autographs on the backs of pictures, snapshots of brothers and fathers and husbands held prisoner in Germany. They looked at our strange American names and tried to pronounce them. It was pretty gay while it lasted, but it didn't last long. Suddenly we heard the Germans were driving up the main highway, straight for Lens. So when Commandant Louis suggested we make a dash for his hideout, we took him up on it. We headed out of Lens loaded down with French citizenry. Everyone asked us one question. Will you come back? Will the Americans come back to Lens? We told them, don't worry, we'll be back. At the hideout, Commandant Louis gave us a full report on the strength of the German 19th Army, our particular enemy. His FFI group was one of the best organized in the district, and the report was detailed and complete. As usual, the FFI men were very interested in our weapons. They liked this Marlin submachine gun most of all, and we showed them how to fire it. But we had important information to get back to the 7th Army. We left 2 men to maintain liaison with Commandant Louis, and then we shoved off for Bourgoin. A few days later, we were back again on the road to Lens-le-Saunier. The intelligence report we'd brought back was gratefully received by G2, and now the whole 7th Army was racing unchecked right up to Lens. But fast as we came, the news of our coming beat us to every town. At Lens, we set up our CP right next to the 3rd Division G2. That meant an integrated intelligence setup. Our job here was to check German positions and explore the 19th Army's escape routes to the Belfort Gap. Our caravan of FFI and SSS agents left Lens headquarters next morning to go up to the front lines outside town. Their final orders were to penetrate all the way to Belfort itself, 100 miles north if possible. Up front, we stopped while the infantry moved up to attack. We gave one group of agents a last-minute briefing, and then they disappeared into enemy territory. At another point, we prepared to put more agents through the lines. Our job was primarily short-range intelligence, but some of these people would penetrate many miles in to bring back the information our Army needed to keep up the advance. We drove them as far as possible, and then we left them, and they were on their own. Machine guns did this to one of our SSS men, American machine guns. Afterward, we stopped using unidentified civilian cars for operations and stuck to jeeps. A few more days of stiff fighting, and the 7th moved into Besançon. We came in over the only bridge across the Doubs River, built in record time by the engineers. It looked pretty quiet until we hit the town park. The Germans were still sniping there when we set up our new CP. But we had a job to do, more agents to shoot through the lines. With the local FFI chiefs, we laid plans for more missions. It was a lucky break when some experienced French Army officers volunteered to reconnoiter Nazi positions. We decided to shoot them through from the front-line town of Loulon. At Loulon, we met the FFI contact man who was going to lead our agents through the lines. Then we said goodbye. The goodbyes were always casual, undramatic. You would have thought these men were off on a picnic, not an intelligence mission. The mayor of Loulon turned out to be a great help. He forged the documents and credentials our agents needed to operate behind the lines. Our field photo cameraman made the identification pictures, and the mayor did the rest. This is Anne, one of our most valuable agents. She'd headed her own resistance group for 3 years and was an accomplished operator already. Now she was joining our team to go through the lines and continue the fight. Anne had been a school teacher, and she taught us some new lessons in intelligence work. We drove her as far as we could, and she bicycled the rest of the way through. The farther north we moved, the more German resistance stiffened. But the FFI was organizing on a larger scale than ever before. And from the farms and towns, French men and women were forming scouting patrols and regular rifle companies. They gave us a motorcycle escort moving up to Dampierre. The Allied lines had moved north, and once again we were setting up a CP 1 pace ahead of the doughboys. We picked one of our best men for a job here. He was Maurice, who'd done great work for us already. Now we gave him tote credentials, briefed him, and sent him bicycling off through the German lines a few hundred yards away. Later, he got a job interpreting with the German 19th Army and sent back many valuable reports.